Hi, welcome to class. We're the only two right now, but the other ones will show up eventually, right? I hate my life. I hate my life. A Professor Sunrise Productions! I guess I'm back on Dragons. Hello class, Professor Sunrise here. In today's class, we're taking a look at the ban list. I will go over each and every single hit, give you my thoughts about it, then I will quickly take a look at like a first rough draft of the new meta, what my calls are of what the maybe decks to beat or like at least very popular decks are going to be. And then we'll quickly take a look at my very first draft of Dragons, where my ideas will be going. Is it going to be Bystial Control, 40 cards, 60 cards? What's the ideas? What got changed, etc., etc. So without further ado, don't forget to like and subscribe, leave some feedback down in the comment section below, and let's get right into the video. So let's quickly go over the list. By now you've probably all seen it, so we'll not be wasting too much time on that. So Cyberstein and Super Heavy Samurai are banned, like the Link 1. The Link 1 is definitely hurting Super Heavy Samurai a lot. Though the engine still is strong, and I've seen some videos of still like having one card starters which end on 3 negates. I don't think we won't be seeing any Super Heavy Samurai cards anymore, but there's no pure deck probably. And Cyberstein, I think, is also there to hit Super Heavy Samurais because with access to Gigant X and other ways to search machines and get them on the board, I think it is the best to abuse a card like Cyberstein, and it's just not a really healthy card for the game, so I'm glad it's gone. Diablo's bad, I think everyone called that. It definitely makes it so that Kashtira is less versatile. It can just now only do a Rise Hard pass going first, which will be a problem in the meta because a lot of decks don't really get hurt by just a Rise Hard all too much, and it relied on having a Rise Hard plus having the extra deck rip and stuff like that to combat set decks. So Kashtira definitely taking a hit there. Same as with the pointer, having the ability to steal your opponent's kaijus whatsoever so that they cannot have the out to a Rise Hard made going first way easier. So without that, it loses probably its best going first staple, especially together in combination with Thrust. It was a very strong combo, and now so that's gone and it's good. A pointer was a very strong card, and then Branded Explosion is banned. Little too late with the new fusion guy that can still puppet lock quite easily as a one card combo. So this is nice, but they can still do the lock if they are going to commit for that. That's a whole different story. Maybe they will just be playing like old school Brandon style with like Mirror Jade, Brandon and Red, stuff like that. But overall, I really like the Forbidden List. For the limits blaster, I don't think it will do anything, at least not in Dragons. Dragons has been past like the standard elemental things. It's basically just Chaos archetype with a lights and dark, so having a fire dragon in there just doesn't do enough. Circular 2-1. Of course, for us dragon enjoys, this does basically nothing. Mathmech Circular is not really a scary card for us because one Bystial usually deals with their board quite effectively, and if we have two, it's an auto win. So we don't care about that, though it's a very strong deck, and it getting limited definitely hinders pure Mathmech from popping off, but with firewall support and overall Cyrus being a really good archetype or like a type of cards with having a lot of generic cards and synergies here and there, there's still definitely a Mathmax slash generic Cyrus pile deck in the cooking, where Mathmax Circular is just one of the best starters, but not the only good starter in the deck. So definitely we'll probably still see some sort of deck like that. Gamma to 1, our hero Gamma, saving us from shifters and ashes all along. Going to 1, it's probably not worth it to play that anymore just because we do have a discard in Ravine if we play it, but going first, going second, having the 1-1 ratio, it's just really bad, and it's not always alive going first either, right? So it's not really worth it to play it anymore, even though we have a discard if we draw the driver. This is ass because there's no shifter band, so we don't really have an answer to shifter anymore going first, even though they can of course always play around that. But by doing so, they usually gave us at least some, like 1 or 2 resources more to play with. Making it easier for us to handle the shifter, maybe answer with our own non-engine. So this is a huge hit for us especially, but also for Labyrinth, and it's basically the only Labyrinth hit there is, which is at least something, but more on that later. Danglong, probably not gonna do a lot. There were people who were testing a lot with it and saying that it's not gonna do a lot, it requiring a brick, not really having a deck right now for it apart from maybe Sword Soul, but Sword Soul can do better stuff. I theory crafted with it as well, and it being a tuner doesn't really help in all of those Sword Soul combos because you will go into it with the non-tuner, so with the not token, and then you have like 2 tuners on the board, so it's really bad. A Rise Out 2-1, definitely also a good hit to Kashtira. Me playing the deck, of course, in the last 2 to 3 weeks, I noticed that you don't really need the second Arise Heart a lot. Like if your Arise Heart gets outed, being able to go into it again is like a huge luxury. So you need 3 bodies again, and if you have 3 bodies, like Unicorn Fenrir will be 2 of them, you can very easily just play Unicorn Fenrir control as well. And as long as your Arise start resolved like once, and you maybe got to banish a Theosis in the opponent's turn, and you got to add back that one extra resource, and you have that birth, whatever. That's gonna be huge. So definitely still expect a lot of Kashtira. It's still a very strong deck when it just comes to like the ratios it has in the engine and the engine itself. The only problem it will be having is that it's just very, very, very one-dimensional. It was kind of one-dimensional before, and if that one dimension you have doesn't really hurt a deck all too much, it just basically has nothing. Add to that one Kaiju just completely annihilates the whole engine when it comes to the disruption it offers now, because they can basically only do Kashtira Rise Up Pass now, and the deck is less strong than it has been before, and it even dies more to the punishes it had before. But relative to the other decks, it's still very strong in my opinion. And then we have Delicious Memory. This is the most important one because it gives you access to Plum, and it being at 1 makes it so that it's not guaranteed anymore of my poorly, hindering the access into it and making going first way, way harder. It doesn't seem like a lot, but a lot of people which are playtesting the deck say this is really, really hurting the deck, so expect way less of purely exactly, which is fine. I don't really like the deck too much. The tower playstyle is a little boring in my opinion. Says the one who plays Kashtira. Anyways, Naturia Sacred Tree, that's a good hit for Naturia Runic, which was a deck which struggled with consistency a lot. Now having 2 less starters or like very good discards together with the Runics is definitely hurting the deck. But that's the only direct hit to Runic or like indirect hit to Runics, like extra engine. So still expect a lot of that. For the semi-limits, Herald of the Orange Light to 2, doesn't really matter. Unicorn to 2, a very small consistency hit. It's still a hit, of course, and the deck has some consistency issues, but overall not too big of a deal. Lightning Storm to 2, completely random. Runic Fountain to 2 only really hurts, quote unquote. Pure Runic Stun. Engage to 2, definitely something nice, but I still think Striker got power crept out of the format. It just doesn't do enough, even if it pops off completely. Just adding on like 2 anchors is not enough in my opinion. And then Starter to 2, also just a small consistency hit, making going second with Sprite a little less good and consistent, because you have only 5 ways to play through your normal summon being popped, like 3 Beaver and 2 Starter. So it hurts a little bit, but overall not too big of a deal. And then on the unlimited part, Blackwing Team the Cloak doesn't really do anything. Birdman, don't think there's like any tuners, like a level 3 tuner which bounces something to abuse something, so there's just no space for it right now, but could be something in the future. Samsara Lotus does nothing, Quick Fix does nothing, Rackettle Starling does nothing, Draco Face-Off probably does nothing, and with 3 multi-roll, Striker could do something fancy, but overall I'm not too sure if it will be doing great. It could be very decent call in the beginning of the format, because it does have the ability to play a shit ton of non-engine, and the engine is fine, but at this point there are a bunch of other decks you could be playing as well, which have a very good engine to non-engine ratio with a lot of starters and being very versatile, which are just a little stronger and a little less susceptible to certain stuff. But overall, people love strikers, so I do expect quite a bit of that at the German Nats, especially here in Germany. There's a huge striker community, it feels like. So with all of those lists, let's quickly take a look at the losers and winners of the format. And also what I think will be the staples which will be rotating out of the format. So let's take a look at the winners and losers. Like I said, for the winners, we do have Labyrinth, only really losing the Gamma, which was insane for the IKEA build of the deck. Stun Labyrinth lost basically nothing. So I will be expecting a lot of Labyrinth, though probably just the IKEA version, because Stun version loses too hard to evenly Lightning Storm, Cosmic, etc. And the IKEA version just has a very good resource loop, and it does lose to Ash harder than the Stun version. And Ash will be probably in every deck, main deck, because people are expecting a lot of Labyrinth and Branded, but it's still going to be a very strong deck, basically just losing a non-engine slot, which was very good for the deck. Then there's Branded, it only lost Expulsion, but it can still do different stuff, and a lot of times you didn't even go for Expulsion because you got hand-trapped or whatever, so Branded is still going to be a very good deck. Kashtira, in my opinion, also a winner of the list. It losing something, of course, hurts, but relative to the other decks, it lost next to nothing. And if you take into consideration everything being hit and the relative power shifters between them, I still think Kashtira came out on top. It still kept Shifter. It still has the most important thing in a Rise side. It just lost the ability to go for Diaboloses. But in the format, if the format asks for it and a Rise Hard Pass is good, Kashtira is still insane. Just going back onto that Rise Hard Pass playstyle and going for stuff like Forbidden Lands to deal with like Lab and like Runic cards, definitely going to be huge for the deck. Then there's Runic. It lost nothing. It only really lost cards which were in the side engines, like Starter to 2, which a lot of decks, especially Livetron Runic, didn't even run at 3 sometimes. and Naturia, which definitely wasn't even that good of a deck. It was very high rolly, but overall it felt very bricky, so it wasn't even that good of a call in my opinion. So Runic definitely one of the winners of the Banlist, maybe even the biggest, just because it got no hit whatsoever, not even like a staple hit, just a slight slap on the wrist in the Naturia form, but Runic Sprite is better in my opinion. Then there's Sprites, also winner, it just lost the starter to 2, and so again, like with Kashira, relative to all the other decks, it lost basically nothing, and just the power level shifting down, and Sprite being a very good deck, especially early on in the format with lots of non-engine. I feel like it's going to be a very good call, and I expect a lot of pure Sprites at the Nationals as well. Then Striker, it got like multi-roll to 3 and engage to 2, so definitely a winner of that, so definitely keep it in mind. People will be coping on that a lot, and of course, all of Rogue One. Think of stuff like Trap Trick, Sword Soul, Dragons, all of them really appreciate the power level of the format just going down. And of course, the format being very diverse also helps them, because then they can maybe dodge a few hand traps here and there, a few staples, which could also hit them, won't be played because people are on a lot of generic stuff. And then the losers of the format, definitely Super Heavy Samurais. They lost the ability to be a pure deck by themselves, probably. It has a consistency issue as before, but with only 12 starters having an 85% chance to see an opener. Now, without the Link 1, the Soul Piercer cannot be a normal summon anymore as a starter, so you go down to 9 starters, which for a pure deck is on the same level as Math Mag, which had the consistency problem as well. Add to that you don't have cards like Paralytic Seed, and the deck as itself, pure, won't be playable anymore probably, although as an engine it still probably has something to offer. Then there's Poorly, losing the most important one in Delicious to 1 is very hard for the deck, and like I said earlier, I didn't test with the deck at all, but a lot of people which were testing with it say this is a huge hit to the deck and being next to unplayable with it, just because it's so inconsistent now, especially playing through hand traps. Then there's Math Mag. Pure Math Mag got a huge hit with Circular 2-1, only having 7 copies of it hard, like 7 copies of it now hurts, and basically being forced to always play with 1 less card because you have to search it with Silent Mining or Small World is a huge hit to that deck, but again, Cyber's piles are probably still very fine. And then there's Naturia. I don't think Naturia Runic is going to be represented at all. It basically only has 7 Naturia starters right now, and it heavily relies on that, because if you don't draw any of them, you're basically just playing Runic Stun without the floodgates, so that's pretty bad. Let's talk about the staples. This will be the most important aspect for us as Dragon enjoyers, because Droll and Ogre are probably going to shift out of the format. Ogre 100%, because it was mostly there to hit Super Heavy Samurais and having some niche applications against Purely as well. And with those 2 decks probably rotating out, or at least like are under the radar and people don't want to prepare for them, I don't think this card is going to see any play. Droll maybe in some side decks, though in my early theory crafting I just don't see I have room for that, because it's not really that good against any of the top 5 decks. Even against Kashira it's not that good. Gamma of course going to rotate out because it's unplayable basically, and then Kaijus are definitely going out of the main deck. If people were playing those like Lava Golem, Kaijus, whatever in the main deck, they're probably maybe putting them into the side deck, because at least from in my opinion, if you are in trouble against a right hard pass, you definitely want to be playing Kaijus right now in the side deck, just to be prepared for that post side. And then hand traps in general, because of Super Heavy Samurais being less represented, you don't really need all of those hand traps anymore, and there's not this deck in Super Heavy Samurai itself which plays a shit ton of hand traps. So definitely expect less hand traps, and maybe go back to those very generic pliable hand traps like Ash, Veiler, and Imperm, and then go more back into board breakers like Dark Ruler, Lightning Storm, whatsoever. So those are all of the staples I'm expecting being shifted out for more board breakers. And with that, let's quickly take a look at my ideas for Dragons in the new format. So the call will, at least for me, will be between 40 card Dragon Link and 60 card Dragon Link, of course always with the Rocket Engine. I don't think Bystial Control is all too good, just because while it does have the ability to play shit ton of non-engine pieces, I don't think non-engine is going to be all too important next format. And having no access into Bystial Disparta just seems like a very bad call in my opinion. I haven't tested with it honestly all too much, but just from a theory standpoint, not having access into Bystial Disparta seems so weird. You sacrifice maybe 3 non-engine slots for like having the rocket access and not having like black metal, stuff like that in a 40 card version. But you have such a more gassy deck, if that makes sense, having way more pushes going first, but especially going second or like in turn 3 to close out games, to just push through disruption. It is just a very good trade in my opinion. So for me, it will be between 40 card and 60 card. 40 card has the added benefit that it has more hard draw favorite, hardcore chaos space, hard draw quick launches. Of course, being more consistent, having access into skill drain to counter the opponent's D-shift, stuff like that, see your side deck staples more. The 60 card version has a way more robust dragon engine, and it doesn't rely all too much on the non-engine to get the deal done, and it relies on dragon just being a very good engine and pushing through everything. I did play this in the regional here in Osnabrück, and I got second place with it, and it really just surprised me how good dragons can be if you just focus on the engine. Smallbird is still going to be a very good card, of course, with having the ability to search a Santa Claus or like a Kaiju, whatever, against Kashtira. But then also just being an engine card without Droll being in the format, a 60 card version like that seems very good. As you can see, both in 40 and 60, I will be playing Ravine again. Last format, of course, with Ogre and Droll being there, didn't make sense for me to play that. But now with those cards rotating out, it seems very good to play Ravine again, having that very consistent ability to go into all of your engines, be it the Levy, be it the Lubellian, be it the Rocket. It is a very good call in my opinion. So the question will be if we will be playing 40 and will be 60 cards, but of course we will be finding that out on this channel here, so definitely stay tuned for that. I will be testing a lot in the upcoming 2 weeks or something, or like 3 weeks until Nationals, and I will hopefully be finding the best dragon list available to us, and we'll be sharing it at least after the tournament with you guys. So hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Hope you guys are as hyped about the new format as I am, though we lost Gamma, so definitely pray for this motherfucker. He was probably our best friend apart from all of the other dragons. We will be missing you, Gamma. So without further ado, class is dismissed. You guys are free to leave. Professor Sunreis out. Peace.